The words Elizabeth Bennet spoke to Mr. Darcy created the most fiery rejection scene in English literature. But the truth, hidden behind this rejection, would prove that love is more powerful than pride and understanding stronger than prejudice. What you're about to discover about this timeless tale will change how you see relationships, society, and the courage it takes to admit when you're wrong. In 1813, Jane Austen penned a masterpiece that was far more than a love story. This was a revolutionary work that challenged the rigid social rules of pre-Victorian England, showcasing strong female characters who dared to think for themselves. Elizabeth Bennet emerged as a character who broke the molds of her time, independent, intelligent, and unafraid to speak her mind in an era when women were expected to remain silent and agreeable. Our story begins at Longbourn Estate, home to the Bennet family. Mr. Bennet has 5 daughters, and in this era, daughters have no inheritance rights. Therefore, making a good marriage isn't just about happiness, it's about survival. Under this crushing pressure, each daughter chooses a different path through life. Elizabeth, the second daughter, stands as the most intelligent and spirited member of the family. Her father favors her above the others because, like him, she reads, thinks, and engages in witty conversation. But Elizabeth's intelligence becomes both her greatest asset and her most dangerous liability in the social world she must navigate. The Bennet household buzzes with a particular kind of energy. Mrs. Bennet, obsessed with marrying off her daughters, creates constant drama with her matchmaking schemes. Jane, the eldest and most beautiful, possesses a gentle nature that everyone adores. Mary, the middle daughter, buries herself in books and moral lectures. Kitty and Lydia, the youngest, are frivolous and boy-crazy, much to their father's despair and their mother's delight. But Elizabeth's real test would come with the arrival of new neighbors at Netherfield Estate. The arrival of Bingley and Darcy transforms everyone's lives in the neighborhood. Charles Bingley appears as everything a young woman could desire: cheerful, handsome, wealthy, and genuinely kind. His friend Fitzwilliam Darcy possesses even greater wealth, but seems cold, proud, and utterly disagreeable. At their first meeting, during a local assembly ball, Darcy makes a devastatingly cruel comment about Elizabeth within her hearing. This moment establishes the foundation of misunderstanding that will define their entire relationship. Elizabeth immediately judges Darcy as arrogant and self-centered. Darcy, meanwhile, initially dismisses Elizabeth as beneath his notice, but gradually finds himself drawn to her intelligence and vivacity. Both are completely wrong about each other, but this misunderstanding actually becomes the barrier that prevents them from truly knowing one another. The social dynamics of Regency England play a crucial role in these misunderstandings. Darcy, accustomed to deference due to his wealth and status, has never learned to express himself warmly to those he considers beneath his social station. Elizabeth, proud of her intelligence and independence, refuses to be intimidated by wealth or status, leading her to misinterpret his awkwardness as arrogance. But Wickham's story would completely transform Elizabeth's thoughts about Darcy. George Wickham's entrance into the story complicates everything exponentially. Handsome, charming, and immediately likable, Wickham tells Elizabeth devastating stories about Darcy's character. According to Wickham, Darcy ruined his life by denying him an inheritance that Darcy's father had promised. Elizabeth, already prejudiced against Darcy, believes every word without question. This reveals Elizabeth's greatest character flaw: her tendency to trust first impressions and accept her prejudices without proper investigation. Because she already thinks poorly of Darcy, she accepts Wickham's lies as absolute truth. She never considers that a man who appears so perfect might be deceiving her, or that her dislike of Darcy might be clouding her judgment. Meanwhile, Jane falls genuinely in love with Bingley, and he seems equally smitten with her. Their courtship appears destined for happiness until Bingley suddenly leaves Netherfield without explanation, breaking Jane's heart. Elizabeth suspects Darcy's interference, adding fuel to her growing hatred of him. Before we continue this incredible journey through one of literature's greatest love stories, subscribe for more forgotten tales from classic literature. Elizabeth's mistake is about to create consequences she never imagined. The truth about Colin's proposal revealed the desperate reality of women's lives in this era. Mr. Collins, the Bennet family's heir, arrives with a proposal that horrifies Elizabeth, but represents her mother's dreams. As a clergyman, Collins offers security, but his pompous, ridiculous personality repels Elizabeth completely. When he proposes to her, Elizabeth's firm rejection shocks everyone. In this era, refusing a proposal means risking spinsterhood and poverty, but Elizabeth chooses independence over security. Collins immediately proposes to Elizabeth's practical friend, Charlotte Lucas, who accepts him for purely economic reasons. This decision devastates Elizabeth, who cannot understand how Charlotte could marry without love. Charlotte's choice forces Elizabeth to confront the harsh realities faced by women without fortune or family support. But nothing could prepare Elizabeth for what Darcy would reveal in his letter. Darcy's first proposal becomes one of literature's most dramatic scenes. He approaches Elizabeth with confidence, certain she will accept his offer despite their differences in station. His proposal reveals his internal struggle. He loves her against his better judgment, against his family's expectations, against everything his upbringing taught him about appropriate matches. Elizabeth's rejection devastates him completely. She accuses him of pride, of separating Jane and Bingley, and of ruining Wickham's life. Her words cut deep because they contain enough truth to wound, while missing the complete picture that would explain his actions. The letter Darcy writes, in response, changes everything. In it, he explains his actions with painful honesty. Yes, he did separate Jane and Bingley, but only because he genuinely believed Jane felt no real affection for his friend. He observed her careful composure and interpreted it as indifference, trying to protect Bingley from what he saw as a loveless match pursued for financial gain. The truth about Wickham shattered every assumption Elizabeth had made. Darcy's revelations about Wickham expose Elizabeth's blindness to character. Wickham had actually attempted to elope with Darcy's 15-year-old sister Georgiana for her £30,000 fortune. Darcy had intervened just in time, saving his sister from ruin and Wickham from achieving his mercenary goal. Far from ruining Wickham, Darcy had actually shown remarkable restraint in not exposing the man's true character to society. Elizabeth realizes with horror that she had been completely wrong about both men. Wickham's charm had blinded her to his true nature, while her prejudice against Darcy had prevented her from seeing his genuine worth. This moment of recognition represents the novel's turning point. Elizabeth must confront her own fallibility and the consequences of judging by appearances. The shame Elizabeth feels goes beyond simple embarrassment. She realizes that her prized intelligence had failed her because she allowed prejudice to override careful observation. She had been as guilty of pride as she had accused Darcy of being proud of her ability to judge character while actually being terrible at it. Elizabeth's visit to Pemberley would reveal a side of Darcy she never imagined. Elizabeth's tour of Darcy's estate, Pemberley, becomes a journey of discovery about his true character. The servants speak of him with genuine affection and respect, describing a master who cares for their welfare and treats them with kindness. The grounds and house reflect taste, elegance, and consideration, rather than mere ostentation. Most significantly, Elizabeth encounters Darcy unexpectedly during her visit. His behavior toward her aunt and uncle, the gardeners, who are in trade and therefore beneath his social station, demonstrates his fundamental goodness. He treats them with courtesy and respect, showing Elizabeth that he has reflected on her criticisms and begun changing his approach to others. But Lydia's scandal threatened to destroy everything Elizabeth had begun to hope for. Lydia's elopement with Wickham creates a crisis that threatens the entire Bennet family's reputation. In Regency society, one daughter's ruin affects all the sisters' prospects. Elizabeth believes this scandal will forever prevent any possibility of a relationship with Darcy, as he would never connect himself to a family touched by such disgrace. Unknown to Elizabeth, Darcy immediately takes action to resolve the crisis. He tracks down Wickham and Lydia in London, uses his influence and money to force Wickham into marriage, and arranges all the financial settlements necessary to legitimize the union. He does this purely out of love for Elizabeth, expecting no credit or recognition for his intervention. The truth about who saved the Bennet family would change everything Elizabeth thought she knew about love. When Elizabeth discovers Darcy's secret intervention in Lydia's scandal, she realizes the depth of his transformation and the genuineness of his feelings. He had acted purely from love, expecting nothing in return, even believing that her family's scandal had eliminated any chance of winning her affection. This revelation forces Elizabeth to confront her own feelings honestly. She realizes that she has grown to love Darcy, not despite his pride, but because she has learned to see past the surface to the good man beneath. His pride was real, but so was his fundamental decency, his loyalty to those he loved, and his capacity for growth and change. Lady Catherine de Bourgh's attempt to prevent their union actually precipitates it. Her insulting demand that Elizabeth promise never to marry Darcy reveals to Darcy that Elizabeth's feelings have changed. When he proposes again, both characters have grown beyond their original limitations. The final proposal scene would prove that true love requires both partners to change and grow. Darcy's second proposal demonstrates how much both characters have evolved. He approaches Elizabeth with humility rather than arrogance, acknowledging how her criticism improved his character. Elizabeth accepts him with full knowledge of his faults and appreciation of his virtues, no longer blinded by first impressions or prejudice. Their union represents more than romantic love. It symbolizes the possibility of growth, understanding, and mutual respect, overcoming social barriers and personal limitations. Elizabeth brings Darcy warmth and openness, while he offers her security and devotion. Together they create a partnership based on equality and genuine affection, rather than mere social convenience. The novel's enduring appeal lies in its honest portrayal of how difficult it can be to truly know another person, and how often our judgments reveal more about ourselves than about others. Elizabeth and Darcy's journey from misunderstanding to love demonstrates that the best relationships require both partners to acknowledge their faults and grow beyond them. But the deeper meaning of their story reveals truths about human nature that remain relevant today. Austen's genius lies in creating characters who feel completely real despite the historical distance. Elizabeth's struggles with pride, disguised as principle, resonate with anyone who has ever been wrong about someone important. Darcy's journey from entitlement to empathy speaks to the possibility of genuine personal growth motivated by love. The novel also critiques the limitations placed on women in Regency society, while celebrating female intelligence and independence. Elizabeth refuses to marry for security alone, insisting on respect and affection. Her choice influences other characters and demonstrates the power of individual conviction to challenge social expectations. The supporting characters each represent different approaches to the challenges of their era. Charlotte Lucas chooses security over love. Jane Bennet nearly loses love through excessive reserve, and Lydia Bennet pursues passion without consideration of consequences. Through these contrasts, Austen explores the full range of women's limited options, while celebrating those who manage to find both love and respect. Pride and Prejudice endures, because it captures fundamental truths about human relationships that transcend historical period. The dangers of first impressions, the difficulty of truly knowing another person, and the possibility of growth and change through love remain as relevant today as they were in 1813. Elizabeth and Darcy's story reminds us that the best relationships challenge us to become better versions of ourselves. Their journey from misunderstanding to mutual respect and deep affection offers hope that love can overcome pride, prejudice, and the barriers society places between people. Jane Austen created more than a romance. She crafted a timeless exploration of how two people can learn to see past their own limitations and find genuine connection based on mutual understanding and respect. In a world still struggling with issues of class, pride, and prejudice, their story continues to offer both entertainment and wisdom about the complex dance of human relationships.